Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:06, and it's the fourth hour of our 4-hour morning extravaganza here. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a busy one. If you missed any of it, please subscribe to and download our podcast. Coming up in 30 minutes, are we close to a peace deal in Ukraine? We'll speak with General Jack Keane about that. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Hanwuka. Happy President's Day, Patrice.
Happy President's Day to you too, Larry.
I miss the days when we would celebrate Washington and Lincoln, but since it's President's Day and all presidents are equal, let us take a moment to acknowledge the greatness of Rutherford B. Hayes, an abolitionist from Ohio who was a major general in the Civil War. That's the good stuff. The bad stuff is he banned alcohol from the White House because he was pandering to prohibitionists.
Well, it was the time. That was popular at that time.
No, I'm sorry. You work in the White House, you should be able to have the odd cocktail now and again. So thank you, Rutherford B. Hayes, for being president. Joining us right now. This story caught my eye, and I find it fascinating. And, of course, it's rife with political intrigue as well, as Governor Kathy Hochul of New York has refused to extradite an indicted criminal back to Louisiana. The Attorney General of Louisiana, Liz Murrill, joins us now. Madam Attorney General, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be with you this morning, Larry.
So Kathy Hochul refuses this extradition order that you've requested on behalf of the people of Louisiana. This has to do, Kathy Hochul says that this has to do with the draconian anti-choice laws of Louisiana, and she's just protecting this doctor for prescribing an abortion pill. From your perspective, what is this story about?
Well, I think, if you look at the facts that Tony Clayton has been very clear about underlying this indictment, it's about a woman who obtained abortion pills from this extremely irresponsible doctor in New York who was willing and in fact enthusiastic about violating our criminal laws, and then forced her daughter to take them to induce an abortion. So it's about coercion and how easy it is for people to obtain these pills and then use them any way they want, even though our laws say that that's criminal.
So let's be clear here. This is a prescription drug, right? This is not just some sort of over-the-counter Tylenol. So this woman obtains a prescription drug across state lines, and it's delivered via this doctor in New York. She then takes it, and it's not for her. She gives it to her daughter. And am I right that her daughter actually was coerced to take this abortion pill?
Yes. And that's why from the very beginning I have, responded to all of the comments by the governor of New York, the attorney general of New York. I mean, even Troy Carter made comments at one time, which I did explain to him. I'm like, you're not defending coerced abortions, are you? I mean, I ask that of all of them. I mean, they keep insisting that the governor more than anybody else, because she's the one that's rejected the extradition paperwork, that they are defending reproductive freedom. This isn't about reproductive freedom. This is about coercion.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, absolutely, when you're talking about an underage, a minor, even if it's the parent who's doing it. So I'm curious now with the doctor, what are the penalties that this doctor could face if she's found guilty?
Well, I think it's about a 5-year penalty. It's a felony. But, right now our focus is on trying to get her brought here to face justice. The mother was also indicted, and so was the clinic. There are other things. There are other things we can do. We can seek to have her DEA license suspended. I could file a civil lawsuit against her and the clinic like Ken Paxton did. I would like to know just how many times she's actually prescribed pills in this state simply because they don't like our laws. I mean, that's not a reason for you to be able to violate our criminal laws. Just because you don't like them doesn't mean you get to come here to do stuff here that violates them.
Other than this poor unfortunate young woman, this minor, having to watch as her pregnancy was terminated and her unborn baby that she wanted to keep was killed. Were there any other health repercussions for this young girl?
Well, initially she was brought to the hospital when the termination began. I haven't met her, so I couldn't really tell you. All I know is what District Attorney Tony Clayton told me. But this started when she called 911 while she was experiencing the termination of the pregnancy, and she was brought to the hospital. I'm not aware that she has any long-term physical consequences, but I can tell you that there are women who do. These pills are dangerous. They cause you to start hemorrhaging, and a significant number of people who take them have to have a DNC to complete the termination because they are left with remnants of a pregnancy, and that is very dangerous, cause you to be septic and die.
So the people of Louisiana, through your legislative process, have determined, through your representatives, that these pills should not be available to Louisianans. This woman gets it from a New York doctor without any direct consultation for the actual patient involved. She gets these pills, obtains them across state lines, and then forces them onto her daughter. And you're saying you've broken the law, you want everyone. Kathy Hochul refuses to allow this doctor to be extradited. I'm curious, if somebody in New York wanted to obtain a firearm that was unavailable in the state of New York because of that state's draconian gun laws, and they purchased it from a gun dealer in Louisiana, what would Kathy Hochul say about something like that?
I'm sure she'd have a very different view, right? I mean, it would be completely inconsistent because she disagrees on a policy basis with our law, so she thinks that she can block the enforcement of it. We'll see about that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, these pills used to be under a protocol at the FDA until the DOGE decision came out, and there was this political movement that under the Biden administration to remove some of the protection that used to be there. They used to require a face-to-face consultation and an ultrasound to ensure that the woman taking them was at the right stage in her pregnancy. You can't take them after 11 weeks. And to also ensure that it wasn't an ectopic pregnancy, because they won't address an ectopic pregnancy, and
so
that can
dangerous.
that can cause that can cause severe problems. So that's why we say they're dangerous. You need to see a doctor. And that not only didn't happen here, but she sent them to somebody that just with no real consultation at all. It's just you fill out a form on the internet and we'll send you pills.
Great.
We're speaking with Attorney General Liz Murrill from Louisiana. Some breaking news this week also is that you filed a legal action in federal court against New Orleans sanctuary policies. I mean, this is, again, another example where, you've got some policymakers who think they're doing a good thing, but they're going up against the law. Talk to us about what you're trying to do to end sanctuary policies in New Orleans.
Yeah, thanks, Patrice, for asking about that. The lawsuit that I filed is to dissolve an agreement that was put in place in 2013 under then Sheriff Marlon Gusman. It's it's an agreement that goes beyond what is necessary to make sure that the sheriff complies with not over detaining people. It goes well beyond that, and in my opinion, it not only conflicts with federal law, but it now conflicts with state law under a law that was passed last year by Senator Blake Miguez that prohibits these kinds of sanctuary policies. And so I filed an action to dissolve the agreement on the basis of even the plain terms of the agreement, which say that if there's a change in state or federal law, then the agreement would no longer remain in effect.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Attorney General of Louisiana, Liz Murrill. I just want to be clear. Are we pronouncing your name right? Is it Murrill?
Murrill, yes.
Murrill. Okay.
Just wanted to make sure, because you're doing stuff and we like it, and we're going to keep an eye on you. Thank you for fighting these fights. Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's 8:15 WMAL.
WMAL, making sense of the news.
Let's discuss, I think, something that needs to be continuously harped upon. The political press in Washington, D.C. is an embarrassment. And the AP, Associated Press, has decided that they're going to draw the line and die on the hill of the Gulf of Mexico. They are outraged that the president, with the stroke of his pen, can determine that the body of water off the western coast of Florida should be called Gulf of America, and they refuse to do so. Because of that, the president's White House press office has decided that they're not going to let them participate in some of the extra special benefits that some of the media outlets like the AP get. For instance, participating in the pool reports. Now, a lot of people say the AP has been banned from the White House. Banned from no, they can cover the White House as much as. But guess what? We can cover the White House, but that doesn't mean we get to go and to every press briefing and become a part of the press pool. The problem is when you're a part of the press pool, you're delivering reports that all the other media outlets utilize, right?
Yes.
And the Associated Press has a specific role here because the AP is used. A lot of news agencies all around the country will subscribe to AP reports, so they don't have to spend money on a reporter. They'll license AP stories, right? And so that means that it's not just the AP that's deciding to continue to call the Gulf of America the Gulf of Mexico, but now it's going to get picked up all over the place. So the White House has said no, and they're not going to let them have the same level of access to the White House that they have had in the past. And this is becoming a thing, apparently.
I mean, come on now. The AP is able to adjust its style guides and its language guides whenever it wants to. And I remember, I'll take you back to 2020, after George Floyd's death, murder, whatever you want to call it, everyone was changing language. And one of the things that was done was to start to capitalize the B in black, as in black people. So, for example, when I write opinion pieces, I write them with black people, lowercase b, and every editor I send my work to corrects it because they go by AP style, which is capital B. So you have black Americans or black people capitalized, but you don't have white people, W in white people capitalized. You see what they're able to do when they want to do something, they can.
That's right. Well, and of course the pronoun wars, they've been on the forefront of that. When Kiev decided that they wanted to go by Kyiv, K-Y-I-V, suddenly everybody changed it. AP changes it to Kyiv. I'm curious, in the sports division there at the Associated Press, do they refer to the Washington football team as the Redskins or as the Commanders? And by the way, if they call them the Commanders, that's fine. But what's the rationale? Just because with the stroke of a pen, the owner decided to change the name to Commanders? But historically, they were Redskins, so why didn't they call them Redskins? What's the difference here? And the AP will say that, this is because we service international organizations as well, and internationally, the body of water is still referred to as the Gulf of Mexico. And the response by the White House is, well, that's fine, but we're in America, and this is what we're doing now. And it's really funny to me that people are getting really, really uptight about this, and they think that this is Trump being a totalitarian because, well, they think everything Trump does is totalitarian.
It's fun. And by the way, to your question, they used to call the Redskins, and in 2020, the same year they started capitalizing B in black, they also changed the name from the Redskins at that time. So they probably just went by Washington football team until it was officially called the Commanders. I think that's because the team started
calling themselves the Washington football team.
Yeah, maybe
too.
That's what it is.
But it's a
point
hypothetical,
taken.
Of course.
Yeah, they could absolutely do what they want to do, and they're choosing not to acknowledge it's not even like he's calling it the Gulf of Trump. He's saying it's the Gulf of America.
Oh,
okay,
my gosh,
big
Patrice,
deal.
do
Change
not
it.
give them an idea. You know that's coming next. Stop it. It's not going to be the Chesapeake Bay anymore. It's going to be the Trump Bay.
I mean, I would give him a body of water off off of Florida. I don't necessarily think it has to be the Gulf, but you could give President Trump like a beach, right? Why not? Why not?
We shall see what happens. It is though. AP is a different animal, and the fact that their style book influences so many other reporters and what so many others do. It is a big deal, and for everybody who says, "Oh, well, AP plays it down the middle, and they're not biased, and they don't, they're objective." Oh, quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. And listen, here's the bottom line. The First Amendment freedom of the press does not deliver you the right to access to the Oval Office as part of the pool, or the right to access to the briefing room. No, you can still cover the presidency without getting all of that access. That's not a violation of your First Amendment rights. You don't have a right to enter the White House as a reporter.
Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
I think he wants to stop fighting. They have a big, powerful machine. You understand that. And they defeated Hitler and they defeated Napoleon. You know, they've been fighting a long time. They've done it before. And but I think he'd like to. I think he would like to stop fighting.
President Trump yesterday, after his jaunt around the track at Daytona, with Air Force One roaring in the background, saying of Vladimir Putin, I think he would like to stop fighting. This at a time where a conversation between President Trump and Putin is scheduled for tomorrow. This also after every top-level cabinet official of note, the Secretary of Treasury, the Vice President, the Secretary of State, have been meeting with Vladimir Zelensky in Western Europe over the course of the last week or so. So where are we now where it comes to a potential peace between these two nations? Joining us is retired four-star General Jack Keane, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and also, of course, UCM is a senior strategic analyst on Fox News. General Keane, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, delighted to be here, Larry.
Well, we're hearing, I left out, by the way, the SecDef, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, has also been in Europe and meeting with Ukrainian, or speaking of the Ukrainian war as well. So where do you think this stands now? Do you agree with the president that Putin would like to stop fighting, and now it's just a question of figuring out, as J.D. Vance put it, a durable peace?
Well, that was the breakthrough on Wednesday when the president made the phone call to Putin. He didn't really know whether Putin was really going to come to the table or not. He's been pushing back and saying he was not going to do that. So that was the news of the week as far as I was concerned. And so that's the case. And now was the Trump negotiating team to deal with Russia is falling in on Saudi Arabia. And I think what they want to confirm in these initial discussions, and it's yet to be determined who's representing Russia. I'm assuming Lavrov will be there, or certainly his deputy at a minimum. But, is it real? Is Putin serious? Because, Putin is a gamer, as we've all known. The Minsk II deal, which is an agreement made in 2014, really favored Russia. He manipulated largely the Europeans so much in that deal. So they want to know if this is really sincere or not. And so these initial discussions, I think, will begin to determining that reality or not. And look, we got a long way to go. This is complicated. This is going to be tough to actually get to a final agreement. But hopefully it works.
Well, General Keane, thank you for giving that timeline so people aren't thinking, okay, it's going to end tomorrow. There'll be a deal reached tomorrow. It'll take time. I think the other big headline this weekend was just that Hamas listened to President Trump's warning that if they didn't release hostages this weekend, they were going to fear they're going to see some wrath. What is your response? And it seems like now President Trump has given Israel the green light that certainly President Biden never gave Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel to go after Hamas and to just eliminate the threats there. So what happens next?
Well, as we said, there's 70 plus hostages. About half of them, Israel believes are dead, have yet to be released. So there's still a ways to go. This ceasefire is 42 days in length, 6 weeks in length, with the idea these hostages are going to be dribbled out 3 or 4 at a time, as we've seen every several days. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing, and hopefully that gets completed. The other is Phase 2 negotiations are ongoing. I doubt if there's much progress being made. And Phase 2 deals with the beginning of the end of the war. In other words, Israel will remove all of its troops from Gaza and permanently stay out of there. And Hamas is supposed to give up governance and disarm. I don't think either one of those sides are going to accomplish what the intended goal is. This is a collision taking place here. And I believe we'll see the Israelis going back into Gaza to remove Hamas from governing Gaza and destroy as much as they possibly can of their fighting force.
And so, as you see the Trump national security apparatus and foreign policy team start to coalesce here, they're obviously adopting quite a bit of conflict around the world from Ukraine and Russia and the Middle East and other hotspots. What's your overall take, General Keane, about how they're approaching things, and also specifically, since you're a retired general in the Army, Secretary of Defense Hegseth's approach at sort of reinvigorating the Pentagon and hoping to boost morale and boost recruitment? What do you make of his efforts so far?
Well, first of all, I mean, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what's going on with our troops. There's nothing wrong with the morale in the United States military, and hasn't had for years. I mean, their recruitment, which has been a challenge for 2 years, all of them made their objectives in 24. And the Army plans to exceed their objectives rather significantly in 25. Retention, which is an indication of morale, has been near record high for a number of years. So, and I'm very familiar with what's happening in all four services because I was on a congressional commission looking at the Biden-Austin National Defense Strategy, which we were very much alarmed with and issued a congressional report saying that we're in a pre-war era. But the reality is the troops themselves, I mean, the military services are too small. The Army is at the smallest it's been since prior to World War II. The Air Force, 40-year low. The Navy short somewhere around 70 ships in terms of what they believe is the minimum to be able to meet requirements. So what is happening as the world situation has worsened under the Biden administration, we all saw it take place for 4 years, the requirements for our troops has gone up. So we're asking them to do much more every single 6 months or a year, and they have less to deal with it. And my concern is if we don't fix that and get after rebuilding the military and do it with a sense of urgency, we may see these high retention rates go down. Why? Because the troops lose any sense of life balance while we're at peace. Look, if we go to war, families come second, mission comes first. But during peacetime, what they're trying to maintain is what everybody in America is trying to maintain, some degree of life balance, despite the fact they're deployed quite a bit. So that's the issue we got to fix. I think Secretary Hegseth is very much aware of it, and certainly the senior leaders are very much aware of it.
We're going to leave it there. General Keane, always good to talk with you. It's a busy time for you, so thanks for carving out some time.
Yeah, good talking to you, Larry, and Patrice as well. Thank you.
Miss anything? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Get today's breaking news on the Vince Colonnese Show, weekdays 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
How you always think, I want to live to this age, I want to live to that. Have you thought about that, Patrice? You want to live to 100? Is that sort of the goal, right? I want to live to 100.
No, not 100, because unless I'm looking really good, I don't want to be 100 on dialysis. You know what I mean? I don't even want to be 70 on dialysis. Now, that said, if I'm 42 now, and if I'm looking this good at 82, yeah, give me another 20. I'll do it.
All right. So first of all, let me just say, people on dialysis can live very rich and fulfilling lives, and they have great worth, number one.
Yes, that is true.
Number two, I'm sorry, you make it to 100, you're looking good no matter what you look like, okay? If you're looking,
being alive, right?
If you're looking good, okay?
That is true.
Well, how about living to 170? How about living? Yeah, that would be something, wouldn't it? Or 140. 100. Did you know that there are
ages?
3.5 million Americans who are currently Social Security eligible are registered as not dead, and they're between the ages of 140 and 149. Elon Musk,
Larry.
Elon Musk has put out a spreadsheet from the Social Security database. It came out at midnight last night. These are numbers of people in each age bracket with the death field set as false, right? You go to the database, you have to say, is this person dead or alive? And if it says false for death, then I guess that means the person's alive. You've got 1.3 million people between the ages of 150 and 159 that, according to the Social Security database, are not dead. In fact, doing quick math here, between the ages of 90 and 170, we've got 10, 20, looks like about 25 million Americans who are upwards to 170 years old. And one wonders if they're getting checks issued for them and whether those checks are being cashed and by whom.
Well, if this is the Social Security database, that means that we need more clarification. But I will just say, last week there were a number of hearings talking about waste, fraud, and abuse in our social safety net programs, of one of which I testified at, and this is what we're talking about. So put Democrats on record of defending someone who is 150 years old, potentially receiving a Social Security benefit. I would like to see that person. Let's send them flowers if they're real.
Ages 180 to 189, 695 people. 190 to 199, 448 people. When you get up to 220 years old, we actually jump up to 1,039 people. My favorite is that there's one individual in America that, according to Social Security, is not dead, and that person actually predates the Republic. They are between the ages of 360 and 369. Maybe, I could be wrong, maybe the year of their birth was inputted incorrectly into the database.
That could be it.
But there they are. We'll look forward to seeing any more research into this. But
yes.
Either way, I think that we know that our systems are archaic, they're broken, they should be fixed. And now DOGE is proposing that maybe we should just get rid of paper checks altogether and have everything be handled as an electronic payment. That would save $750 million a year right now for all the checks that we print and send out. That's worth exploring too, isn't it?
I'm open to it because there are a lot of people who hang out at mailboxes in certain neighborhoods knowing when the first of the month is coming, and they target older people. So listen, there's a security aspect of it, public safety aspect to this.
It is 8:52.
Stuff government. Yeah. I love the Social Security story, the Elon Musk.
Isn't that something?
Just wonderful. Apparently Americans are living longer lives than we had originally thought.
Well, that Obamacare thing is really working out, I guess.
It is. How many people are over 200 years old that are still in the mix for Social Security there? That's big fun. Crazy stuff. We got Democrats. They've lost their minds. Nobody should be